So what about you on that one?
I think, I just watched the Aaron Hernandez documentary, and I know it may seem unrelated, but, constantly, playing every week and, going up against guys rubbing shoulder pads and helmets, I think it takes a toll on the brain, and the discussion of health is another thing, that we can stretch out like silly putty later, but I think these guys need a little bit of a break. However, can we just make the Pro Bowl an accolade in which it's not a game that you have to play in? Because if you want to talk about things that are ridiculous, the Pro Bowl is one of them. I think, along with the NBA All-Star Game, although it should be a little bit more interesting for emotional reasons this year, the Pro Bowl is one of the worst exhibitions of all-star talent in sports. Not that it's the talent on the field that's bad; it's just the execution of it.
Well, there was a time they were actually considering getting rid of it, but then the players talked the commissioner into doing it. But yeah, I've actually been to a Pro Bowl, and when the Pro Bowl was here in Miami, and I had the Super Bowl the following week, so at least I was able to get it off my bucket list, anyways.
Mm-hmm. It's just not entertaining, though. I mean,
well, I agree.
If I'd like to hear a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who looked pretty good in the Pro Bowl last week, say, "I'm just there to work on things." And the rules are a little bit different, but at the same time, it's just boring to watch. I don't understand how they get ratings with those games, honestly. I just think they're a perpetual snooze.
Well, I think it's more like flag football.
Pretty much.
Well, it is.
Pretty much. That's an astute observation.
It's called playing patty cake, or baker's man.
A game I used to play in middle school called Capture the Flag, where nobody's falling down. You just pull it. You know what
Capture
I mean?
the Flag. Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard that one, but yeah.
Or in that case,
Capture the Flag or flag football. Either way, but yeah, I agree with you. The Pro Bowl is definitely not one. But, I guess they use it as a gap to keep football active. I guess if there's one thing I do like about the Pro Bowl, it's between the Super Bowl. It's before the Super Bowl instead of afterwards. So at least in that sense, you do keep the football going. Anyways, go ahead.
Now, I want to ask you guys this, because this is a weird rule that the NFL has, but I'm interested in what your perspectives are on it. Tom Brady was a Pro Bowler last year, and I believe they have a rule in place where if you play in the Pro Bowl, you're ineligible to play in the Super Bowl.
Well, it is. Yeah, of course.
What is your stance on that?
I like it.
Yeah?
I do. I really do. I think that's an excellent rule. And the reason why is, you know what? These guys have had enough football anyway. So, and, there's a hangover from the Super Bowl. And that rule actually is simultaneous. Well, first of all, you can't get the Super Bowl guys before because they're preparing for a game.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's item number one. And second, if you have them after the Super Bowl, they're going to probably want to cancel. So, no, I think that's one of the few rules that's actually a really good rule.
Rick?
Yeah, what about you, Rick? Not that you care about either of them, but...
The Pro Bowl is garbage. It's so bad. It's like, it's a free vacation for them. They're just...
Well, that's true.
Good time, and they don't even there's a one Pro Bowl they didn't want to tackle each other because they didn't want to hurt them. So they should just get rid of it. Say, hey, congratulations, you're in a Pro Bowl, and not have a game. That's what they should do. But that's my opinion. But
well, they should. But with all due respect, Rick, how would you like a free vacation to Hawaii? Even though they don't get the crowds there, and that's why they brought it to Orlando so the fans could get to it. But players had to elect a free vacation to Hawaii. But Orlando's done a good job hosting the game, so.
Yeah, I agree. I like Orlando and Hawaii. Hawaii's fun. That's a great place and it sounds exciting, but it's terrible. And I like the rule too. I actually like it when they had a Pro Bowl after. I don't like it before the Super Bowl. I like it after the Super Bowl.
Oh, do you really?
Oh yeah, I do. But I never watched the Pro Bowl, so I can care less. They can cancel the whole thing and do whatever they want. So it's just, to me, it's terrible and it's boring and it's dumb and it's silly. It's like when I used to go to Dodger Stadium and they would have the celebrity actors play baseball and all that stuff. It's kind of like that. It's just nobody takes it seriously. It's just fun. It's who cares? MLB also is getting kind of like that too, where when I used to watch it, it was always American versus national. You always wanted to represent your league and your team, and now it's become a free vacation and it's all fun and and that's what I don't like about the All-Star games. It's just like guys playing with each other, kind of like if I was playing basketball with my friends in the backyard, and it's just something for people who really don't watch sports. It's become more like the Academy Awards to me.
All right, well, let me talk about All-Star games while I have a moment, okay? of all the All-Star games that I like, okay, I got to tell you, though, Rick, baseball is easily at the top of my list. The second one, I'd put the NHL because there's skill competition. And I would probably, I hate to say this, but go with the Pro Bowl because they're starting to play with a little bit more energy because the threat was there to get rid of it. And the NBA, they simply don't play defense. And if I want to watch the Harlem Globetrotters, I'll watch the Harlem Globetrotters, not watch these cotton-picking clowns. But that's how I would put the All-Star game. But I love the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Had a chance to cover one when it was down here in Miami a couple of years ago. Yeah. And I think it's not only the All-Star game, but what they've done around it with the home run hitting contest and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then hockey, you develop an appreciation for the skills competition more, especially with some of these guys when they've gone ahead and shown their skills during the game. And hockey's done a good job going ahead and changing the format so much where, 1 minute North America against the world, now they've broken up divisions until they try to find the right combination. And hockey's done and they've experimented different ways. But, once again, folks out there listening here on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, and just so you folks know that this broadcast can be heard on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. So, but that's where we can be heard. I'm definitely on board with baseball, hockey, football, and then, of course, the NBA, which the word defense exists. Nah.
No.
And in the eyes of Rick Curdy, you're right. They stink.
And get rid of the slam dunk contest. It's a joke now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what. But I got to tell you, though, I like the home run hitting contest more than the slam dunk contest.
And the way that they've changed that around to where there's a time limit now, it's
that's
a little bit more fast.
Yeah, but then again, let's not get him started with all the baseball stuff. Otherwise, Rick Curdy will eat you alive. But that'll be for another baseball show.
No, but I'll say this, Rick. You mentioned the celebrity softball games at Dodger Stadium and MLB. And if you want to talk about more real quick about things that are unnecessary, why doesn't Major League Baseball cancel their celebrity softball game after the All-Star or after the Home Run Derby? Why don't you take that money that you're giving those celebrities to appear there or what you're doing to set that up? Why don't you invest that in some schools in the community across the country? Why don't you do something good with that money? I don't need to see Jamie Foxx hitting a single on a 200-foot field and running to first base like he's never played a sport before. I'm really not a big fan of those celebrity softball games. I think they're super gimmicky. I understand Jenny Finch was a good softball player, but I really don't care to watch her play. Invest that money elsewhere where it's going to do good rather than put people to sleep after a home run derby.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not in favor of any celebrity games leading up to the All-Star game, and I'm picking on the NBA again. I don't know if there's much of that in the NFL, and I know there isn't in hockey because those celebrities can't get on skates, and they'll play the old song that Lions used to have. Another one, Bites the Dust.
By Queen.
Well, I don't know about the artist. Another one, Bites the Dust is all I need to know. But that note, okay, I want to thank Rick Curdy, who was the CEO of the Charlotte Bats, for being on the program. Anytime we need a rant of the day, we could definitely count on Rick Curdy to provide some very interesting, unique, candid, colorful insights. With that said, Rick, thanks for being on the program, and we look forward to your next visit. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Rick.
So now I'm sure you definitely understand why some people don't care about the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I've had problems with it for years because we've discussed this briefly. I'm a massive music fan, so to see them constantly shell out, like a couple of years ago, they had the Super Bowl in San Francisco, and if we're just going to talk briefly more on this. And they had Bruno Mars play in consecutive years. Now, Bruno Mars, no disrespect to him, there was a petition to have Metallica play. Metallica is a world-renowned heavy metal band who hail from San Francisco, hail from Los Angeles, but they made their name in San Francisco. And yet the general public failed to acknowledge. They've had rock bands play there before. Prince, Michael Jackson, right. Aerosmith, great acts. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers have played there. Why are you putting in this very easily forgettable pop artist in Bruno Mars and foregoing one of the more commercially and critically successful bands who hail from that area, give it a local feel. It feels very community-like if you were to have that there. They've made several mistakes before. I think Jennifer Lopez is another one. It's an appeal to the Latin community. You can make that claim all you want. There's even rumors that this performance that they're going to have is going to be empowering. All I'm going to say is to anybody out there, don't watch The View the next morning because that's all they're going to be talking about.
Well, I'll say about the Super Bowl, unless I'm actively involved like I have been this week, where I'm actually, around the newsmakers and the people I need to. I don't watch TV and watch any of that. I have other projects like building this network, lining up guests, and trying to build a business model that will allow our entity to get stronger by the day. I don't have time to watch a lot of the side stuff. In the end, it's 60 minutes of football, 4 quarters, 15 minutes of pop. That's it. You can analyze this stupid game frontwards, backwards, sideways, and really in the end, you know what? It comes down to the fact that it'll be decided on the field. I don't care about all these analysts that have ever been there or haven't been there telling me what I think I ought to know. I really don't care. It's not the point. It doesn't make a lick of difference.
Well, you made reference to it. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing down in Miami on Tuesday.
I will do that. I had an opportunity to work with the Rude Dog Show, Rudy Reyes, who Motorman and
Rude Dog.
Right.
Copyright it.
Right, exactly. And we were doing some projects for him as well, and it was a great opportunity for us to team up. And Rudy has a show here on the network, and we were able to land a few good interviews along the way. Don't have time to get into them all as our next guest is about to appear, but a few that stand out were Eric Hippel. We had a chance to talk to Howard Balzer. And, of course, Rudy Reyes and I went ahead and did a few live shots as well. And I had a chance to attend a Fox press conference where I was able to talk to the Dean of Officiating, Mike Pereira, and I had a chance to go ahead and hang out with Joe Buck. So it was a lot of fun. But again, I take things at a much different level that at face value for what I believe we need to do. But unless I'm actually totally involved in it, you know what? You won't see me around the TV very much. I'm way too busy. Don't have time for it.
Yeah, and I think you'll be better off for it because you're not missing anything entertaining. I think the word entertainment has been skewed with a lot of
Well, I drove down South Beach and seeing everybody have their sets. I really don't frankly care. I don't care. It was good because Rudy came in from out of town, and him and his wife had a chance to see it. So anytime you have an out-of-town visitor looking at it, it's nice to show them to be the tour guide. But we got a lot accomplished on Tuesday at the Miami Beach Convention Center. We really, really did. So I'm happy that we were able to team up and do what we had to do. There's no doubt about it. So thanks for bringing that up. I really totally appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pertinent now, and I think it's a good distraction to talk. Not necessarily a distraction, but it's pertinent to what game we have coming up this weekend. And, you know, in a sense, it is a distraction to get us away from the really tragic news that's kind of come down this week. We've already discussed it. We'll discuss it a little bit more later in the show. But, yeah, I know, look, I mean, it is unfortunate. Candy did make a good point earlier when she said it is appropriate that this kind of does overshadow a lot of what's going on because of, you know, who Kobe Bryant was. And as I was talking earlier about him, I felt, you know, it was kind of getting hard to speak because even as somebody who really, I followed his career, but I didn't necessarily, wasn't an adamant NBA, you know, fan, it still hurts. I think when any loss of life hurts, you know, not just Kobe, his daughter Gianna, John Altobelli, who has connections to My Sport Baseball, and just the other families involved. And, you know, all I can really say is this, you know, tell and somebody on SportsCenter said this, I'm sorry I failed to mention the name. Anytime you see your family, you don't know when you're ever going to see them again. So if you can, tell them you love them. You know, tell them you appreciate them.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know,
you don't know when your last opportunity will be to do it. No doubt about it. Absolutely.
This was unforeseen. Nobody saw this happening. The conditions kind of paved the way for that, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I can validate that a long time ago when I saw Chuck Hughes die of a heart attack when I went ahead and at a young age. With that said, our next guest is former New York Giants offensive lineman Bill Winters. And thanks for being on the show, Bill. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Scott. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Bill. You know, obviously, you know, you have some connections to the Super Bowl, you know, both past players. So we'd like to have the audience clue us in on some of your the people that you've dealt with throughout the years that are associated with this big game.
All right. Well, we can start with my head coach, John McVay, who built the 49ers into a dynasty and was in 5 Super Bowls and orchestrated that with Bill Walsh. He became the director of player personnel and just did a magnificent job after he left with the Giants. So that, you know, sticks out quite a bit. And then Joe Scannella. Joe Scannella was a Jersey guy. Had won the Super Bowl with the Oakland Raiders as an assistant coach. And then when